right, you wanted to introduce it, so...
Welcome to Letting Them Lead.
In this episode, we are going to talk about structuring your environment for little learners. And we'll give just things from, again, a Gen Ed TK classroom teacher's perspective to speech language pathologist in a preschool settings perspective, and talk about the things that we see working. But I thought it could be fun, and I'm springing this on you. Can you explain the hat?
Okay. Well, what I was thinking was teachers always wear different hats. So I thought I'd open with that. Like, this is one hat, and sometimes I go like this. Just depends. If I'm truly letting them lead, I might have to change my hat.
We're task adjusters.
Pretty much.
AKA hat wearers.
Hat wearers of a variety.
Bridal hat wearers.
Myriad hats.
A plethora of hats.
Plethora, a favorite word.
Well,
so yeah, environment, making those changes as needed. So I've got a great example. This one, my friends and I were walking back to our classroom, and lo and behold, our friend that tends to take packing materials out of one room and delivering it probably to a dumpster of some sort. Those packing materials were blocks, I tell you. And I held one up, I stopped my little line, and I said, "What is going on? What do you think we could do with these?" And there was some that were just like these rectangles, dense, and then there were some that were these strips. And we brought them all in. Everybody carried one. We could only carry one each because we just had other things to do. And we brought them all in and we started building, but that wasn't our routine and it wasn't our normal. And it did happen to fit in with our transportation routine or theme. But the point was, I wasn't planning it, but it was something that happened in the environment, so we used it. And it was really cool, and you should see the things they did with made ramps, and it was very cool and very exciting for me.
I'm glad we got to structure your environment. I can't wait to edit. I cannot wait
to edit this
because I want to see my facial reaction.
I can already tell you were not approving.
It wasn't that I'm not approving. It's that I'm... For any fans of The Office, which you don't watch... But you are, I've said this to you before, you are Michael Scott. Like, in the best way. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I know. But do you know the word circumlocute?
Whoa. That's a doozy of a
Talking
word.
in circles.
Oh, I circumlocute.
You just, no, but you're not talking in circles, I guess, so much.
Are we really taping this?
But you're like Michael. Yes, we are taping this because this is, I'm the editor. We're just everybody knows, right? Now, I edit these episodes, and it's so hilarious to me to watch because I know in the moment I'm sitting here like, I know she's going to get to the point. We're talking about structuring environment. I know we'll get there. But like, my brain is like trying to grab those moments of like, oh, that's what, nope. She didn't go. She didn't get there. Oh, that's what it is. Nope, she didn't get there. But you're getting there in your mind. You always get there. But I just laugh when I watch the edits back because I'm like, I'm watching myself try and figure it out. Like I'm doing the math in my head or the puzzle. It's hilarious. But you get there.
Should I work on it?
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't. What is the word?
I think
circumlocutions,
like when you talk in circles. I think, right? Yeah, circumlocutions. I don't know.
Just sounds like me.
It's a cool word. But it just reminds me of Michael Scott because when he does like his like talking interviews in the show, and he's like rambling, you're like, where are you going with this? And then he says it in one of them, like sometimes I just talk and see where it leads me or something. Hey, well, that's what I do in improv.
Well,
I did it the other night.
You know, and maybe it's a good problem to have because
I'm not saying it's bad.
I do keep a 360 kind of thing going on so that we can use those clues in our environment. I mean,
okay, yeah, sorry, so now I got off topic.
Yeah.
See, mine is topic maintenance, yours is
circumlocution.
Rambling. But, okay, so yeah, we're just starting, we're getting there. I was going to do wins of the week, but you went right to it. Wow. We talked about this before, but
I did my win.
Unless I have like an easel with our talking
Ooh,
points.
that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Look,
but I like
do
to
your
just...
win. I just did mine.
No.
There's nothing
We'll get
better
there.
than children inventing.
We'll do wins later, because basically starting off with thinking about how we structure an environment in this early childhood setting, and we think about letting them lead. I think it goes back to even what we talked about last week, where you're making time to observe kids and like figure out what they like, so you can set up your environment accordingly. And as early childhood educators, it's so important to be open-minded and allow things to change. Like, I'm big on environment as a person, like how I work. I'm highly influenced, which I'm trying to work through. I'm trying to get to the point of like why I'm so dependent on my environment. But I know, I work best, for instance, when my desk is facing a window or a door. Like, little things like that shape how productive or how motivated I am for my own things. And when I'm at work, I know how important it is for me, so I always have to think about my environment for my kids. And coming from this lens of being in special education and working with kids that have taught me a lot about sensory needs and the environment that can be set up for them, I've learned it takes time to figure out on an individualized level what works for students. But then it's cool when you know, and also it changes when they're all together in a group. Like when you're doing things where the lights need to go off, all the kids are sitting there and like they're fine, right? On the carpet, for instance. I've seen this happen a lot. And then it's time to like do a song that includes having the lights off, or put on a video of like one of the curriculum things, like stories or something, and the lights have to go off. And so you have your light helper go and turn the lights off, and the minute the lights go off, it's either chaos or things change because the environment changes, so the kids' attention shifts. And it affects everybody in a whole group. But if you had one or two kids in there and that happened, it may not change as much because it's a smaller group and there's less influences on the kids to get a little crazy, or maybe they freak out and they get scared, or whatever it is.
Or knowing that that's going to change, give them a little warning.
Right.
Because that's also adding to that environmental change.
Yeah.
And it softens that. One of the things, okay, can I go off topic? Just because you said light switch. So here's the thing. When they enter the classroom, there's soft music playing and the lights are off, because they go and they sit and they chat. And I ask them to talk. I've said this before. They talk about what their plan might be for the day, what they did yesterday, and that kind of thing. And I give them, pipe in every now and then. But the lights are off, and then I slowly turn them on. And they just kind of know what's happening next based on that. And it's never like a shock. Yeah. And it's not scary or anything, but you know what I mean?
Right. And you just said something that's more of like environmental cues, right? Like the lights going off. They know that there's a change coming, or something like that. Like that, they've been taught that about their classroom, their environment with you, that's something that's what that means. And so like in thinking about even how we specifically structure the environment to build cues into their day, like from the time they get to school, like, for me, for instance, when my kids get to school, we've made it, and I think you guys do this too, because we have the same curriculum, but there's greetings on the door. Do you guys have the visuals of the greetings on the door? So like right there, the environment is set up to let the kids know the expectation, right? And now not all kids understand greetings, not all kids use them yet, but it's always there because we can always model it. And so thinking in terms of setting up the environment for students of this age group, this 3 to 5 age group, it's so important to make sure that like things like visuals are always in place. And where they can see them,
pictures
too,
of the toys
at their level, pictures of the toys, but also then you have me come in and say, also the language, the core boards, and for all the kids, not just the kids that have identified speech and language needs, but like even the kids that are just, because you don't know where they're coming from.
That's
but
true.
It's also really helpful because all kids and all adults have communication breakdowns. Like, we use visuals, for instance. Now I'm on my visuals soapbox, but we go to the grocery store and we don't know where the spices are if we go to a new grocery store. We need those visual cues to kind of remind us, oh yeah, they're going to be this way or that way. I still go to the same grocery stores and I still need visual cues, or they change things up in the grocery store and I need to look.
And how important is that as a reading skill?
Yeah.
When you tell them, look at the pictures and see what it tells you.
Exactly. Well, and then, too, and I know a lot of the visuals in our curriculum do this, but I always include, when I create visuals for kids, like, yeah, my kids don't read yet, for the most part. Some of them are starting to. But I don't eliminate the words when we make our visuals. Like if, for instance, like I have a card that says break time. I have cards that say potty. I have cards for yes, no. They always say the word. It has the visual so they know what the symbol is.
Yeah.
But then you always have the word there too, because it just helps give even more. Yeah. Well,
the pre-reading, they'll recognize a word. They'll realize this set of things or symbols or whatever it is at that moment for them represents something, and even if it's not, clicking then, it clicks later. We don't always know how for each child, but it does.
Yeah, and while I'm continuing, just because now we've hit the visuals part, we're gonna have to okay, now when I'm editing, I'll remember this. We'll do a whole episode on visuals because I think they're amazing for this age group and all age groups. But
I need them.
I'm
a visual learner.
I am too. Well, I'm like a total learner.
You are. You do all that biology.
Well, I can learn, but I learn certain things. This is another tangent. But
I'm circumference.
I told you, topic maintenance is my thing. I learn through some things I can learn auditorily. Like I'll hear it once, but they're only select things. Yeah. Some things I have to see, and most things I have to apply. So I'm a total learner.
You know what's weird for me about that? You're well-rounded.
And some things are kinesthetic. It's weird.
So I can learn a group of children's names in a heartbeat.
Don't ask her adults' names. Even her own kids.
I think I'm afraid I'm going to forget. Children don't care if you forget, right?
Some of them do.
The older ones
do. The twins care.
Twins probably do.
They have that.
You're right. Yeah. But, I don't even forget. Because I think there's not that fear. They're like, I want to remember all the adults so badly, but I really have to practice their names.
But also, sometimes there's different intentions. Like your first day with a group of your own students, like your intention to make that connection with them it's just a different level of, if you go, sorry to say it, but even if you go into a meeting with your colleagues and your staff members for the first time, you're so focused on, when I get in that classroom, I'm going to set up this environment for these kids that I'm about to meet. That's where our attention kind of is and our intentions are. And so, not that it's not giving us excuses.
Not being in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
It should be.
But it makes sense in that way. Okay, but back to quick story. I guess this is my win of the week in a sense. It doesn't actually have to do with being at work, but when I was in San Diego last weekend with Mark's family, there was one of his extended family members there. At some point in the 2 days that we were there, found out I was a speech pathologist. I never had a conversation with her, but somebody, I guess maybe his mom told her oh yeah, Marie's a speech pathologist. She works with preschoolers. And she sought me out the next day at the party that we were at. And was like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, what'd I do? And she was like, I have a grandson who's 3 and he's autistic. And I was like, okay. She's like, I heard you work with kids. I was like, yeah.
She just got all excited.
Yeah, she wants help so badly. But it was we were zoned in.
Yeah.
And so she's telling me about her grandson, sweet boy. Just sounds like, he's like a lot of my students, right? Just wants to play, wants to do his own thing, has limited verbal communication. She's like, he'll grab my hand and take me to what he wants. I know that, one, environment is huge. What's happening in his environment in those moments where he's not being verbal or he's having the breakdowns, the frustration. Because she did say he'll get frustrated a lot. And so a lot of the times it's access in their environment, even at home, in their natural environment. Is he able to access what he needs and wants, or is he having a hard time showing you what he needs and wants? And so the first thing I told her was, just take pictures of all the things he likes and wants, for the most part. All his food, his favorite foods, drinks. Put pictures of the outside, if he has a slide outside, put a picture of his slide on the glass sliding door. Put a picture of the potty on the door to the bathroom. Put pictures of all his food options on the outsides of the fridge and cabinets where he can see them. And then when he's going towards those, or he's taking your hand towards those, with your hand that he's already holding, point to what he might want or give him his choices. And then we go back to choices. So when you set up the environment to assist with all those levels of communication, then you build in naturally choice making, autonomy, motivation. Like, it all starts to kind of come together. So that was kind of just a fun interaction I got to have with somebody I'd never met before. Because when I said that, she was like, oh my gosh, that, like, yeah, we're gonna do it. And I was like, it takes a little bit of work to set these environments up for kids at first. And in a classroom, you set it up, and then day one of your class, you're like, okay, we're rearranging the classroom. But like, you just pay attention, and then you make it work. And I think you'll agree with me, like, you do what's right for your students, not what's right for you. You know, you may want this perfect classroom that's organized a certain way for your standards as the adult, right? It makes more sense for me to have the paint here. But that actually, my students, like, don't do well when they're painting over here. It works better actually if we're over here, so now I need to move it over here. Like, just little things like that. So I don't know if you want to talk about how you, like, generally, like, maybe how your classroom is set up that really works for what you do.
Well, my classroom is not a traditional early childhood classroom.
It's
So
not?
no, I had to, like, modify just a regular classroom.
Oh,
4
your
walls.
actual, your box
The box, rectangle box, yes.
that you're grateful for.
That I'm so grateful
No.
for. But no, and I am. And what I have to say, I'm proud of myself for making it work.
Well, and I think that's something to bring up too. In a lot of, not a lot of schools, we don't know, but I know in our district there's a lot of impacted schools and programs, like, and it changes year to year.
Yeah.
But that's also something to remember, like, you have what you have, and you do your best with what you're given.
That's
So,
a life skill, or a life, what's the word? Well, anyway, it's good for your life to live that way. Anyways, so I've made my environment, the biggest thing I think that we can do is make a flow as best you can.
Yeah.
Like I said, my hardest time is when they're transitioning. I have dots of certain colors. We have centers at one point of the day. And when they're done with the center, when it's the time to go to transition, we focus by sitting on a dot first.
Yeah.
So that we can move carefully and not be all scrambled. And so they do that, but there's still not a lot of room for these dots, because I used to have them more separate, but the middle carpet I have on the ground, they can pull the dots off. And the first days of school, they were all pulling them off. And I thought, I don't want to spend my time telling them that's not okay.
Fair enough.
The fact that they're pulling like this was kind of good. But I needed the dots to stay where they needed to stay. So I had to redo that part of my environment.
But see, yeah.
But so back to just everything flowing. I always have more areas open than there are children. So
That's a good point.
Yes, because then if 2 children want to be at the Dramatic Play Center and 2 children want to be over here where there's slime, or 4 children, whatever it is, and then or somebody's waiting there's for the slime, because that was big this week, then there's other high excitement activities to do.
You're talking about when your center rotations are happening.
Not centers.
Oh.
We call it PDR. With Frog Street curriculum.
So they're child-led center rotations.
They are the child-led centers, and I know I might do it a little differently, but the centers are where we do literacy.
So you have 2 set. I mean, now we're talking about schedules, but that's okay. You have 2 in your class, 2 sets of, like,
2
center activity, or what am I trying to say?
I guess you could say that. Let me just explain how I do it.
Okay.
So we do our first circle time, and we do some literacy things and math. We do a lot of different things in that circle. It's amazing. And then they get to choose what area. I talk about what's going on in all these different areas. And like I said, there's dramatic play, there's a science, there's city, which is where they can build cars, workshop, other manipulatives, Legos, any kind of choice. They're all an option.
Yeah.
Then we have a big floor where big things can happen. Those blocks that we found, that we grabbed and took with us.
Okay.
Major big things happening there. Big boxes to sit in for cars or whatever. And then we have a library, and I have a semicircle table and a rectangle table. And those are other choices that happen.
Okay.
The rectangle one is so long that sometimes I have 2 different things going on.
Oh, cool.
We also have what they've learned really quickly about a waiting list. And if you just didn't get to make that choice and time runs out, you can make that choice tomorrow. And I post it and I say, if I forget,
that's cool.
If I forget, you make sure you remind me and you will be next. And I own that because it's so important for them to get a chance. And some people do PDR less, or these choice centers less in a week, once or twice. And if that's the case, that list is really important.
Yeah.
Because a whole week later, a child is processing what they're learning in your centers, your literacy and your math centers, and then how can they use it in the real world or all the choices in the environment that they have. And that's what fascinates me the most, is to watch when I work with them in a center, a concentrated topic, and then they take it with them somewhere else, even if it's not where I thought they were going to take it. I see them using it, the language, all of these things. So did I answer your question? They get to make these choices first, and it's just the way the day goes and what works with our schedule, and when we have to get out to the playground and when we have to have snacks. So this is why we do that first. And so
so then at some point in the last half of your day, you have more of the
guided
half rotation.
Is our guided rotation.
That's exactly so where they're in a group, and then when the timer goes off, they switch to the next one.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
something
cool.
like that. I don't have a actual timer because we kind of gauge. We don't want to rush.
Yeah.
And sometimes things today, our STEAM center it's going into Monday, and I clipped all their stuff. It was an amazing group. I could tell you all about that too.
Yeah.
But anyway, and that is, again, I didn't want to rush them. They were creating transportation vehicles out of different size construction paper. That takes longer than 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And, we rotate into 3 different things. So anyway.
Yeah. So your room is kind of, what we're saying about the environment, it's set up to have, what's the maximum number of free choice centers that you do at a given time?
Every one of them. I don't know what they feel like.
How many is that?
So there's art, but there's an easel. That's a separate thing.
Okay. There's
even a tall magnet cabinet. There's, because one kid loves that, so it's always there. There's the big floor. There's the reading science.
5.
There's dramatic play. There's the large blocks. Did I say big floor? So 6. So do you think that's an appropriate amount of centers?
I am not the judge of what's appropriate.
Oh, well.
I'm going to tell you right now. I have a classroom that has 8 options open in their class. I have a classroom that has 4. And I think it depends, again, on your students and their needs. And it depends on what your kind of how you're structuring your own program and your own classroom. I have a class that I work in that has our afternoon, for instance, we just have kids with more intensive needs, I guess to say. And so we have to be very mindful about, yes, they get choices, but what are we offering and how many choices are they getting? Because
it might be
it might be too overstimulating. And then they've also, again, when you look at what you're given on a school site, they have a classroom very similar to yours. We follow their lead. We have things for them to make choices about what they want in that moment. I have a student, for instance, he loves dinosaurs. So we give him, he carries those dinosaurs around all day, and we use them, we play with them. So there's just a lot of figuring out.
Yeah.
We do it on the daily, and we think we get it, and then it changes.
Exactly. So that's my whole point, is that we're supposed to be, I think it matters if you're doing what works for the individual child, not what works for me as a teacher. Yeah, I'm sometimes really exhausted at the end of the day because I do run all these centers each day, but it's what works in my classroom.
Or like having to, I mean, just little things too. When you think of setting up the environment, like sensory needs speaking, like in our classrooms for the most part, we have like a bean bag. So our kids that maybe need like that
to squeeze,
to sit in that squishy space.
Oh, it's a sitting one. Okay.
Yeah. Have that, or we have like pillows that kids can sit and hold on to during circle time. The sensory pillows, like the ones with like the sequins.
Yeah.
We're always offering those. So we have those in our environment, and we're always changing or considering what the needs are for our students. Some of our students, they need that support for their back. Like I have one little student, she's got hypotonia, the low muscle tone. So when she sits on the floor, she just, like, her body just naturally just kind of lays down because she doesn't have the core support. And then it, because then it's distracting for some of the other students, or some of the other students imitate her. But we have those cube chairs that they can sit in that help them sit up and still be a part of the whole group learning. So it's just even like down to those little things. It's just like you're saying, paying attention to the individual students when you're thinking about that, and then I come from, not this year so much, but I still have students that I pull into my speech room. But like even thinking on like, how do you set up for students like of the preschool age for a speech room? Because if you go into like the typical elementary school or middle school speech rooms in high school, it's a kidney table. There's a kidney table there for your therapy groups. The kids, for the most part, are probably going to sit down, and, that's the idea anyways. And with preschool, or if you work with kids that, again, you're doing more of that, like, play therapy, you're on the floor, things like that, you got to have an open space. My speech room is mainly open. There is a table for the kids that, when we're doing articulation and speech sound sessions, like, we sit there, they can color while we're working, or we play games there. But I, a lot of the time, am on the floor when I pull kids into my speech room, and I have a rug in there, and we sit on the rug, and they get to pick what we play with, we pull out the blocks, or we pull out the train. And that's why I love our program, because we have our environments for the most part set up to build that confidence and that independence. And then we have the students that maybe really are paying attention, to their peer models, that need their peer models, I should say. The environment's kind of set up for them to be independent, and then the students that are looking at their peers to help guide them, and they're imitating them and modeling after them. It's just even better because the environment has been set up for their level and developmentally, and then it's building that and fostering that independence so well.
Those visual cues make it so that you can share how would you say that in your language? I say dishes or whatever it is. I don't know. And
right. Well, and bringing up that too, like, those ELL students, they go through that silent period. You heard, there's like, and I have a student right now that just came in, and he's in that period, and the teacher's like, he doesn't say anything. I'm like, he's not, it's okay. Like, he's absorbing. And if you watch him, the minute I brought out the core board on it was like his second day of school, and I bring it out, and he just looked at it, and you could tell he's like looking, and he's figuring out, okay, and I'm modeling, because he's like, there's something that happens for kids that are absorbing language, I notice. When you bring out those visuals, it's like they know it before we do. Like, I don't know, it's so cool. They're looking at it and realizing, oh, this is helping somehow, So then I sit there and I'm like, oh, it's time to eat snack, and I'm pointing to eat. And
he doesn't make them feel about school, Like, wow, they get it. They get me. So explain to them what a core board is.
A core board, I'll put a picture if you're watching this. If you're not watching this, I will link one so you can check it out. A core words board is something that has, it could be anywhere from 2, let's say, to I use a 40 picture or icon board, which means it's a board or a piece of paper that has 40 images on it, squares, and it's core words, functional core language. So it's not going to be your fringe vocabulary that maybe you're teaching, if you're teaching all the vocabulary from if you gave a mouse a cookie, it's going to be the core words that kids, because basically
use in their daily life.
You're using, even us right now, if you were to take a core board and highlight all the words on that core board every time we said one, we would blow it out of the water because that's our functional language. So it's words like I, words like want, words like big, small, things that don't have a specific, like, this is coffee, right? Like, I can say this is a drink, that would be a core word, or to drink is a core word. But coffee or orange juice and things, those are like more fringe vocabulary. They belong to a category, a specific
types of
subject
drinks.
matter.
But a drink is the core.
Versus
because everybody drinks.
Or drink, like the verb. Or eat, like I want to drink. Things that are like, if you think of core words, they're like necessary words.
Right.
Another way that I like to think of them just for my students is they give our students more access to be able to get their needs and wants met. So for instance, if my student wants the red train, that's not going to be on his core board. But what he can show me is that, and he can point to it and say, I want that, because that is a core word, right? Or want, that's a core word. So he already has so much power in his communication because he can literally tell me, I'm requesting something right now, I want it. He can say it's big, like it's the big train. He can say yes or no, because then if I'm like, was it this one? No. Is it this one? Yes. Like, it has all of those words that just add meaning in our language on a, like, minute-by-minute basis, I guess. And so it's just very functional and practical in the classrooms. And so, we put them up on the doors, on every wall. Like, we're actually building, I can link it. I created a reel on it, but in our preschool program, we are building, we're doing a year of core. So the 40-word core board that we use in all of our classes, it's on an 8.5 by whatever, 11, what a standard sheet of paper is.
That was it.
We're building a big poster size one in the class. So every week when I go in and I do my circle time lesson, which is about 5 minutes, and that's part of their environment. They have their big core board on the wall that Miss M has been making with them. I make them a part of it. I bring in the new word every week, and it gets Velcroed onto the board. So it then looks just like the small one. But they can see, I've been showing them every week, like, we have this many, but look at all the white spaces. We're going to put those ones on every week, So they understand that they're helping build this as they learn what each word is. So, yeah, it's been a really cool thing. I'll definitely have to link the reel I made because then you can, like, see it. Because it's hard for me to, like, explain when I know that you can't necessarily see my gestures or I don't have one on me to share. Actually, probably have one in that bag somewhere. But, yeah, so that's kind of the idea is, like, shaping the environment for all the kids around having access to these functional core words. And again, then you have the kids that maybe quickly pick up on these things that are modeling it throughout the day. Like, as we're teaching the words on the board, I'm teaching them the sign that goes with it. So, like, more, all done, whatever the word is that week, we're learning the sign, the ASL sign that goes with it. And it's so cool to see the kids now, like, during snack time or whatever, we have the kids that quickly got it and they're doing it because they're so excited about it. And then my other students that maybe need a little bit more prompting are watching their peers do it. So they're starting to understand and it's cool. So again, when you're very mindful about what you're putting in their environment, it really comes back tenfold.
I have, during our PDR time, I always have told them, you can ask me if there's something that's not out, you can ask me. And I just love all of their little attributes, but this one little friend loves to build signs or put signs.
I think you've talked about.
I have talked.
I think so.
And so anyway, he wanted to build a McDonald's. So I told you I had those big boxes. So he made a McDonald's, but he needed an M. So he thought, I need sticks. I have a bin of popsicle sticks. I have all these things that they could always use to create just there. Because I want, if they have a feeling they need to be able to do it. So I said, well, okay. He goes, can I have some tape? And I said, of course, it's right there. And he can do it now. You know, if you need help, let me know.
Yeah.
And I just say, it's there for you. You may choose it. You know, I don't go and, okay, let me get it for you. It's right there. And so got what he needed. If he didn't need them all, he put some back.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a beautiful thing. And there's an M on the side. And so then the next day, then they started using it and going over and saying the Playhouse was McDonald's.
Oh, cute.
And so next week is post office because of Valentine's and all that.
Oh,
We're going to talk about that. So I put some post office pictures on the sides for those, and I'm going to talk about them. What could we do with this and see what they say? Anyway, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But changing the environment to what's going on in the world around them.
Yeah.
You know, also, and if they talk about something, and then I always bring stuff back in. Somebody says, to me, it's just so exciting because it just, I don't know, it just, their spark, and it just makes them want to be there and makes them do more the next time and I'm telling you, they're really interested at the centers when we're there.
Oh, sure.
Because they have had their chance to be exploratory on their own terms. And then I'm guiding them, and I tell them sometimes we have things to teach you.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about those things too. You know, this is this time and this is that kind of time.
Right. And they've now learned what it's, you know, based on how the flow of, like, how they've helped kind of dictate the flow of the environment. They've learned, again, what to expect, and at different times, or when their environment is set up a certain way, this is what's happening. But I do think, you know, when you're really thinking about setting up your environment and thinking about intrinsic motivation, whether it's for attending a speech lesson or attending, you know, in class or whatever, like, there's a huge, especially in the speech and language community, I know we're really big lately. A lot of us, I won't speak for everybody, but I know a lot of my colleagues and people that I've collaborated with, like, we talk a lot about intrinsic motivation, how we can build that versus, well, if you come to my center, you know, you get a sticker. It's more of like, I want to go to your center. And a big part of that is their environment, how safe they feel in their environment, how autonomous they feel in their environment, like their ability to be creative and share their ideas in their environment. When you think about kids with sensory needs, like, is their environment set up, do they, you know, and like my biggest wish that I know is difficult in the schools because of liability is to have a swing in my speech room.
Me too.
But I know. And so, you know, there's certain things, you know, obviously, again, we do the best with what we have. But thinking of those sensory needs. So when we think about that, because every teacher is going, and speech pathologist, every educator is going to set up their environment a little bit differently. And it makes sense. But are you thinking about that ability for your students to have that intrinsic motivation? I guess is kind of where we're going with that.
And what all kids, no matter what they're coming into the program with, need. They all need to feel autonomous and feel secure and to feel like they matter. And all of that is your environment. And when you're providing activities and telling them how to do it, then their ideas don't matter anymore. Now, if you're telling them, like, when we're practicing writing letters, that is a different thing, because that's something that we have to do accurately so that we can learn to read and write as we grow.
Yeah.
But if you're drawing a picture, I'm not going to say, well, that's not how a car should look. Oh my gosh.
We're going to have to, another one.
That'll be another one. Put that in.
Putting that, I'll put it in my notes.
Somebody say, yeah, I really want to hear that.
Letting kids create what they create. And yes.
Yeah, and here's what you do. Here's what you don't do. You don't say, what is that? You say, tell me about your picture.
Or you do this. You go, you go real slow. You're making a... And then they'll probably fill in bunny. And you're like,
that's what I thought.
I ever saw.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Yesterday,
don't tell them.
Yeah. awesome. Yeah, we'll do a whole episode because now I'm like,
Yeah.
like, oh no, the bunny ears are supposed to go on top of the bee.
Oh.
No, they're not. If he wants them on the bottom, then you acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Holding my place.
And I always hope when parents come and visit my classroom, they understand that I'm letting them lead, because
Well,
I think they do.
yes,
because
I'm sure because
if they cut it like this and it usually goes like this, it gets to go like this, it goes on the wall,
and it shows because it. Again, we'll get there.
I know.
But the bottom line is, it's what they're doing. It's where they're at.
and it's good.
Yes. We'll get there. That's a really good place to pin this one. Because maybe that'll be the next episode.
I think we need a
part
chart
2.
though. Then I won't circulate
Right.
whatever you call it.
We'll get a chart. I don't like talking with charts.
I know, but just a
Bullet
guideline.
points. We'll just have a
bullet,
list. We'll just
a
put
little
it on the
bit.
coffee table.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
And please help us make that list.
yes,
Let us know what
on
you
that
want.
note, yes, please comment what you'd like us to talk about. If you have questions for us.
Yeah,
We'll
make
have
us
to
do research.
I want to do a Q&A episode, but yeah, make us do the research. Let us do it for you. Let us do it for you. I do actually on the docket I want to look up some like articles on child-led. In the classrooms, in the early childhood education classrooms, also in the inclusion classrooms, because I just want to see what's going on, so we can share more about that too. That'll come. But thank you for listening. Thank you for chatting with me on a Friday afternoon.
Thank you for editing.
Thanks for the coffee.
You got it.
Full of gratitude.
Cheers
Cheers.
to another great episode.
Yes.